welcome again. The second lecture of regarding subdivisions or subfields of political science. So here we are going to discuss what the remaining aspects, the remaining fields of political science are subfields, in which the first one is political theory. Political theory is not a new one, it is an old one. So it is evident from that the word theory is derived from the Greek word theoria, which means well-informed idea on the basis of thorough observation. Later it came with the two meanings, broader meanings and the narrow meanings. Broader sense means that whole teaching of thinker, means the whole teachings of a thinker, and in its narrow sense it means that means a proposition or a set of propositions designed to explain something with reference to data or interrelations not directly observed or manifest. So it is a branch of political science. Political theory means theory of the state or of any political process. We can say that theory of democracy, theory of dictatorship, theory of end of state, etc., etc. Political theory. So it is not a new one, as I have told you that it is as old as the teachings of the writings of Plato and Aristotle, even of earlier Greek thinkers and writers. So we can know that a theory can be challenged by a new theory, by discovering new facts and new ideas. So which cannot be explained on the basis of the old one. So we know that history of political thought is the history of political theories, of all the political thoughts of those, means European philosophers and Muslim philosophers. They are full of ideas. Those are political theories. So it is based on what? It is based on facts when it is scientifically proved. Suppose in initial stages these can be in crude form or not been yet tests, means not in a real form, but not in practiced, but it can be tested. So a correct political theory depends upon our knowledge and broaden the scope of political science. More political theory that according to a writer, that when political theory performs its functions well, it is one of the most important weapons in our struggle for the advance of humanity. So it is an important field which is related to political science. So political scientists cannot ignore the importance of this important field. Next, public law. Public law is also not a new one. It is an old one, which is evident from the codes of the histories. So let's discuss. It is what? It is law of state, which is made by legislature of the country, of the state, of the government of that, which is enforced by the administration agencies, and which is interpreted by the courts of that state. So it is the rule of the conduct and laid down by the state. Public law has vast subdivisions in political science. So as a matter of fact, it is been taken from the historical records. It is older than political science. We can say it is older than political science, and political science and public law has a great relation, which is manifested by the, suppose a code of Hammurabi in 18th century BC is similarly the law of Moses, 13th century BC. So public law is regarded as administrative one, even independent branch of political science. So almost all the European nations followed this. So it can be divided into civil law, criminal law, constitutional law, administrative law, jurisprudence, international law. So all those, and also some of the states have such have consist of various systems of law, like Roman law, like British common law, like Islamic law, like Hindu law. So many one. So it has a great interaction with the subject of political science. So it is the subfield of political science. Next come international relations, or IR. Our study would be useless or incomplete without studying international relation. It is we know that it is a subfield of political science, and it is new one. How it is new one? That in 1900, after 1900, especially after World War One, it became on the surface. 1914 and 1918, the era of World War One. So before it was it was a part of diplomacy. Diplomacy, with diplomacy, the art of negotiation between the states, or between the governments, or among the states, or among the governments. So it is also studied, not only the negotiation, but now it is studied as a power politics, the practical one, the practical side of it. So states follow this for the achievement of its national interests. Here its separate area covers, that is foreign policy of state. So the subject is very vast one, but here for the purpose of this important question, we will not go into detail. Not only power politics mean said by different theorists, like suppose John Mashmer is of the view that all the politics is power politics. And similarly, Hans Morgenthau, the real political scientist, is a proponent of realism, or realist, is of the view. So all those, Barry Bush and many others, so they have their views. It studies in IRB studies what? The study of war, the study of peace. We can say all this are strategic studies. So it has its own subdiscipline in IR, which the students of IR very well know. Not only these, but all sorts of relations, state to state, government to agencies, and all those people, organizations, like international organization, regional organization, alliances, treaties, and many more things being included in this area of international relations. Now, one of the important, the major one, is the role of United Nations Organization, UNO. The students of IR studied UNO and its functions, its agencies, suppose Security Council, General Assembly, Secretariat, United Nations, many other specialized branches. So international relations are studied not only by the governmental bodies, but also by the private individuals and thinkers. So it has two approaches. Now, need not to discuss these two approaches here in detail. The first one is ideal or idealist approach, and the second one is realist one. So in a separate lecture we will discuss these two approaches pertaining international relations. Next comes comparative politics. We cannot ignore the importance of comparative politics while studying political science. Broadly speaking, when we say that all political science begins as comparative politics. Now, let's pose an example that whenever a person notes that another country is not governed in the same way by his as compared to his own country, so he has undertaking comparative study of politics. He asks himself that which state is going in a better direction. So this comparison is the basis of comparative politics or comparative studies. So uh, ancients, it's not a new one. From the ancient times, Greeks began the study of politics more than 2500 years ago, and they compared the political life of the great city states with one another, and ancient Persians with Egyptians, with other peoples around their country. So thus the comparative method became the foundation of political science. It is not a new one, it's time since immemorial. Next, now it is now we call comparative politics as a comparative government. Simply, is a recent development. More than 4 centuries, from the 16th to 19th century, and the states like Europeans or the USA, they studied it, and on the surface it became much popular from the mid of 20th century. The two factors led to its growth. What were those two factors which led to its growth? The first one was behavioral approach or behavioral movement in political science, and the second one is the rise of independent national states or nationalism. National states, especially of the third world countries, their movements, their independence movements after World War Second, after Second World War. So comparative politics, we can define comparative politics that it is the comparative study of the variations and differences in the political institution. You know, the differences in what? The differences in political institutions of the states, of those states, and activities, their working conditions, their activities, their performance in all kinds of states or governments in the whole world. So a student, a political scientist, in order to do this, he need to have a wholesome knowledge of all these variations, comparative, with respect to comparative politics. In comparative politics, what its chief concern is what? Political system. So without political system, so it is a pinpoint that when it comes to the purview of a student of political science, so normally he goes to what? This important area, which is political system. Without it, its informations are insufficient. Here what he do? It is the study of political culture, socialization, interest. So these are separate one: political culture, political socialization, interest aggregation, and interest articulation. If we have time in the next, we will define all these terminologies with respect to these this subject of comparative politics: interest aggregation, interest articulation, and all these: political culture, political society, political socialization, all those. So what here? Decision making and policy making. These are the above mentioned are important one, and as considered as input functions, and as output and feedback. So the example is little bit resembles to the David Easton model of political system, and similarly many theorists like David Easton, Gabriel Almond, and Coleman, they discussed and they came with their own models of comparative politics, comparative government. So it is what need not to go into detail. It is what to identify uniformities and differences. Here, the political scientists need to highlight, identify what the uniformity of the systems and their similarities and dissimilarities. And next, it is structural functional analysis of political, structural functional, how they perform the analysis of the system. Simply in David-Eastern model, if you discuss that, input functions, output functions, conversion box, output functions, and then the feedback comes. It is what it builds on models. So they frame their own models of political system, that should be the best one, that should be valid one. So it varies from area to area, state to state, and every country follows suitability of their own ongoing social activities, suits, and accept any one of them. So it provides laws, etc., and political behavior and processes. So political scientists want to do, and he provides what certain laws in political behavior and processes. So that's the end. That's the end of this second phase of the lecture. Hope you have understand it very well. Thank you very much.